my name is Devjani Paul, because I know there are some of you who we haven't met yet. So I can see some of the familiar names of the students who are doing the MTech program, but I haven't yet met the students in MSc and PhD program yet. So good morning to you all. So this week, which means for the next 3 classes, we are going to cover summary or abstract writing. Okay. So I believe you have in the communications course, you have covered ethics, you have covered reading a paper, right? Well, what else have you covered? Anyone? Can you unmute and tell me? Did you cover any other topic other than these two?
Good morning, ma'am.
Yeah.
No, these are the only 2 topics we have covered.
Okay. Okay. So you haven't yet covered how to write a paper, but which you will cover. Now, this module, the way I teach it, usually it is pretty interactive, and let's see how we can sort of mimic this in this online mode. So usually I ask questions, and I would request you to unmute yourself and give whatever answers, whatever you think is the correct one. Okay. So instead of what I normally do, even if I teach one class, instead of lecturing for the entire duration of the class, I lecture for about 15 minutes, and then the remaining time I give you assignments to do based on what I just taught you. Because in communications you need to practice what you have learned. Otherwise, the learning sort of doesn't stay with you. Okay, so in this case, whatever we are going to discuss for this class, what I need you to do is to log into Moodle for the next 2 classes. It's about an hour each. So you will have 2 assignments to do. One will have about 11 questions, the other 8 questions. I might change it slightly after the class, but those we will test what you have learned. Okay, and you must submit those assignments on Moodle. Some of you have already done something, quizzes and stuff on Moodle, so you have a very good idea how to go about it. Okay. If not, you can message me on Teams and I can help out. Okay, so that's something that will open today at 2 o'clock, and it will close on 12th at 2 o'clock. Although you only get 1 hour, in case your internet connection's not there or something or the other happens, you can take it anytime during this period. Okay, all right. So now that we understand the logistics, let me start by the covering abstract writing. Okay, so the first question is, most of you know sort of what abstracts are, but my question is, why do we care about abstracts? I mean, what is an abstract? Why do we even bother to write a good abstract at all, right? We write a good paper. Isn't that enough? Why do we need to write a good abstract? Can I have some people unmute themselves and answer?
Good morning, ma'am. Karishma here.
Yes, Karishma.
Ma'am, we write an abstract. It's kind of a summary of the entire paper. So it gives the reader an insight as to what experiments we have done, what we are working with, and what kind of a result we get from the testing that we did.
Yes, but why does the reader want to know that? I mean, how does it help the reader? Okay, I see some hands raised, and I'll come to you after the one after the other, right? No, I don't know if there are any other hands raised. Yes, Karishma, anything else to add to this?
Ma'am, I think it's just for the knowledge to see if the reader has interest in the particular paper.
Okay. Can I have some other? Thank you. Can I have some other opinions? I see several of you here. I see some of the second year MTech students as well. Yeah. What else? Okay. Akshara, would you like to say something?
Yes, ma'am. Like a good abstract can make a good impression on the paper. It can make or break the impression, basically an abstract.
Good point. So what Karishma said is abstract is the summary of the paper, but as Akshara pointed out, it's the part that gives you an idea about is the paper going to be good or bad. Are you going to actually read the paper or not? This is what you decide only by reading the abstract. So if you want people to read whatever you have done, you must make sure that the abstract is very compelling. Okay. Now, in many cases, you send your papers to journal editors and so on, right? So first thing they read is the abstract, right? So whether they even review your paper or not, that depends on a lot on the abstract. Similarly, you get a new journal and you know you're leafing through the pages of the article. You're not going to read everything. You look at the table of contents, title looks interesting, you go to that page, then you open the paper, but you're not going to start reading the whole paper. You first read the abstract and try to see is it making sense to me, and only then you read the entire paper. So abstract's pretty important, but couple of points. So the first point is that the abstract must be written in a way that should contain very important keywords. So when you go to PubMed, when you go to Google Scholar or any other search engine, Web of Science, whatever it is that you use, uh, you get certain keywords, right, that you want to look for, right? Let's say I'm working on bacterial motility, right? So I might give the keywords bacteria, maybe more specific, E. coli, motility, flagella, etc. Now, the abstract must contain the most important keywords that describe the work, because a search will throw up those things, right? And only then, I mean, a reader finds your paper. So forget reading about it. These days, what people do, you are reading all papers online, right? So therefore, you are going to actually first do a search, then find a paper, and then you are going to see if this is interesting. So for people to even find your paper, it's very important that the abstract accurately describes your work by having those very, very important keywords. Okay, so that's the first point. The second point is that, so whether you'll get citations or not actually depends on if people can actually find and read your paper, right? And the secondly, if they read, do they like it? Is it useful? Then those things come. Okay, the second thing, and it's also important to understand, is that an abstract basically describes what is in the paper. You are not critiquing the paper in your own paper in the abstract. Okay, you are not evaluating this is good work, this is bad work. You are not defending the work. So you must stay away from those words which sort of kind of give this judgmental sort of thing. Okay, you might not see that this is a great work that describes whatever. No, you can't write that. You basically say it describes whether bacteria move in a particular way or whatever. Okay, so you have to just accurately describe, and this is important to understand, because people can be kind of sort of, how do I say, you like your own work, right? So you would obviously want to defend it. So obviously your abstract can become biased, but this is something you must not do. Okay. So these 2 points you must remember. Okay. So now what we are going to do is we are going to deconstruct some abstracts, right? But before that, let me show you one. This is a very famous work. Okay. This motile behavior bacteria by Howard Berg. He's a professor in Harvard University. He had been working with bacterial motility since the 1970s. Okay, so he's one of the big experts in this field, and this is somebody who initially trained in physics, worked in biology, and also has joint appointments in the departments of physics and biology. Okay. Now, the interesting thing is that this paper in physics today is one of the very well cited papers, very well known papers. It's written for a common audience, so you're not an expert in the field, and you will uh, um, still be able to get what this field is all about. And then you will read some more scholarly references. Right? So the reason I pointed this out is I wanted to, abstracts can be written for general articles, abstract can be written for very specific articles for, for your journal. So this is more sort of a, you can call it a critical review sort of thing. Okay. Now, if you see the part that I've put inside this rectangular box is the one that is the abstract in this case. Interestingly, if I let me read it out. E. coli, a self-replicating object only 1,000th of a millimeter in size, can swim 35 diameters a second, taste simple chemicals in its environment, and decide whether life is getting better or worse. Just one sentence. Just one sentence that is describing almost all the key parameter that uh, that is relevant to E. coli's motility. Specifically, Howard Berg studies bacterial chemotaxis, right? So whether bacteria move towards a chemical that they like or move away from a chemical that they don't like, right? So the sentence that decides whether life is getting better or worse kind of describes it. So this is written in layman's language and just one sentence, but it captures things very well. Now, most of us, we are not at his stature. We will write other kinds of articles. It will be quite some time before we are asked to write something like this. So we have to write considerably longer abstracts, okay? The reason I showed you that this is also an extremely, it's an achievement to be able to describe everything within one sentence. So when you write a longer abstract, there has to be a structure to it. So this is what I'm going to show you now. Another example, okay? And in that example, this is a fairly long example. I want you to read on the screen the entire abstract. And please follow here because whatever you are learning, if you don't learn, you can't do the assignment that I've given. All right, okay. So this is something about a molecular motor, which is called kinesin 5, okay, and what it does. So read this. I'll give you a minute and then we will take this apart. It's okay if you do not understand every word that is. As I said, this is something that's required, that is for a journal article that is geared towards people who work in this area, right? So that's okay not to understand everything. Okay. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take apart certain sentences from here to come up with what is the structure of this. Okay. So the first thing that you do see is that the how many words there are. Now in this case it has 184 words. So your typical abstracts, they have somewhere between 100 to 200 words. The shorter papers that are about 4-page papers or so, or 3-page papers, they have only 100 words that they limit. You can't even, when you are submitting the article, you can't even put in an extra word there. But typically they say 200, sometimes it can go to 250, but in very rare cases, okay? And I'm right now focusing on only journal papers. Of course, you will have an abstract when you write your MSc thesis, MTech thesis, PhD thesis, and so on. Those can be somewhat longer. Okay. Again, by the way, when your thesis goes to somebody else, the first thing they read is the abstract. All right. So I have now shown you the same abstract here, but what I've done is I've highlighted certain sentences here in color. What I would like you to do is volunteer. I mean, if no volunteers, then I'm going to call out names. Uh, Please volunteer and tell me what do you think each of these sentences do. And it's absolutely fine to be wrong. Okay. So, can somebody tell me the first sentence in blue? That is, During cell division, mitotic spindles are assembled by microtubule-based motor proteins. I'm not asking you what it says about motor proteins. I'm asking about in terms of writing structure. Yeah, I heard somebody fiddling with the microphone. Can someone please uh, tell me what do you call this? So, is it the result? Is it the introduction? Or is it the future work? What is it? What is that very first sentence?
Hello, ma'am.
Yeah, tell me.
Vinanti here. Good
Yeah,
morning, ma'am.
good morning. Tell me.
This sentence is telling us the general introduction about the work or the work which is going to happen in the paper. Like
Very
this is
good.
the general introduction
Very
sentence.
good. You are right. Not only is this introduction, so first of all, this is introduction, but secondly, this is more of general introduction, right? Okay, someone else, the second part, the part that I've highlighted in brown, right? The bipolar organization of spindles is essential for proper segregation of chromosomes and requires placent-directed homotetrameric motor proteins of the widely conserved kinesin 5 Vinci family. Hypotheses for bipolar spindle formation include the push-pull mitotic muscle model, in which kinesin 5 and opposing motor proteins act between overlapping microtubules. This is still talking about kinetics, right? So, what is this sentence about?
Hello,
Ma'am,
ma'am. Good morning,
Yeah,
ma'am. Diksha
yeah,
here.
good morning. Diksha,
Ma'am,
tell
this
me.
is yeah. Ma'am, this
Tell me.
is specifying the role of microtubules. Uh,
Right. How would
this
you
is basic.
agree?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
So this is specifically uh, telling us the role of microtubule, as this is saying that this bipolar organization of spindle is essential for proper segregation of chromosomes and require plus and directed. This is basically specifying the mechanism that how it
Right.
works.
Okay. So if I see the first sentence was about microtubule based motor proteins in general, the second sentence is now specifying of this particular protein, which is the motor protein called kinesin 5, right? So the first sentence was a general introduction. Second, the not second, second and third together, maybe a couple of sentences that are bringing about what the particular motor protein that you are uh, focusing on in your paper. So this is a, by the way, this is a real abstract. This was published in Nature, and they also use it for training in writing, right? So what we have so far covered, we have in the introduction itself, there are two parts. So first there is a shorter general introduction, then you give something more specific to the background, so that is your specific introduction. Okay, all right, thanks. So now let's turn to the next sentence, which is again highlighted in some blue, which is says, however, the precise rules of kinesin 5 during this process are unknown. Okay, so what does this one do?
Hello, ma'am.
Yeah.
Ma'am, I think this sentence can be called as lacunae.
Okay, or gap, right?
Yes,
So
yes, ma'am.
this entire sentence is telling you what is the gap in research is, and how did you identify that this is the sentence that's talking about the gap?
Because in the first sentence they have given the general introduction. In the second, they are telling the literature review. In third, they are telling what is not known till now. So that is the
Not
gap in
known.
the
That is
yeah,
the important thing, right? There is
like
the word unknown here. Okay, so the use of such words that something is unknown or something is not done yet, those kind of words are what tell you that this is missing. So this is missing in the literature, and this is what we do. But if you see, I have also put one word in bold in this sentence, which is however. So typically, to identify what is what, you will see that this words like however, but, such words are used to sort of say something contrary. So the earlier this was saying about what is known, and now it's saying about what is unknown. To make the jump from what is known to what is unknown, you use these sort of connecting words. So words like however, or these words are something is unknown, that tells you this is the document. You're absolutely right. Okay. Then there's this sentence in red which says, here we show that the vertebrate kinesin egg 5, kinesin 5 egg 5 drives the sliding of microtubules depending on their relative orientation. Okay. Can somebody tell me what this particular sentence does? Yeah.
Tells us about the motive of the experiment.
Sorry, could you please repeat? I couldn't hear very well.
It tells us about the motive of the experiment.
Motive of the experiment. Okay, all right. Let's hear a bit from the others as well. Sir, I didn't get your name, but do people agree with the view that this sentence is talking about the motive of the experiment? Is there anything else here?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, what is it?
Ma'am, they have shown the experiment they have done in this paper.
Is this Buddhadev?
Yeah.
Okay, wait. So you are talking about it. She said it was about the motive of the experiment as to why we are doing the experiment, and you are saying it is about the experiment done in the paper.
Yeah, ma'am.
They are two different things, yeah? Okay. Anyone else with any other thing? What is that?
This is
Word?
the
Conclusion.
ultimate result of the
Yes.
entire paper.
Absolutely right. This is the one sentence summary of what you found. And that is the most important part of the paper. Right? So this is not about just the why you are doing the experiment or about the experiment, but this is the result of the experiment. That we did experiments, we analyzed the data, and this is what we find. That here we show that kinesin 5 drives the sliding of microtubules depending on their relative orientation. Okay. So your abstract must have that one key sentence which summarizes what you have done. If you are not able to write that sentence, that one sentence is what you must have given before you write the paper. That tells you what your paper is going to be all about. Okay. You could even use this sentence as the title. You could see that the title of the paper could be Vertebrate Kinesin Egg 5 drives the sliding of microtubules depending on their relative or orientation. These kind of sentences are also used for titles. So the one in red is the most important sentence. This is about the result. And how do we know? Again, I have highlighted some words here, which is in bold, which says, here we show. That is your clue that they are saying what they found. Okay, so this is the one. Okay, then there's a part in green, right? That starts with, we found that in control in vitro assays, egg 5 has the remarkable capability of simultaneously moving at 20 nanometer per second towards the plus ends of each of the two microtubules it crosslinks. For antiparallel microtubules, this results in relative sliding at 40 nanometer per second, comparable to spindle pole separation rates in vivo. Furthermore, we found that egg 5 can tether microtubule plus end, suggesting an additional microtubule binding mode for egg 5. So there are like some 3 sentences in green, right? What is the role of these 3 sentences?
And these are results.
These are also results, right? But what is the difference between the sentence in red, which was result, and the sentences in green, that is also result?
A red one is conclusion.
In some way, yes, you're right. That is the conclusive result or the summary result. That is the main result. The green one is about the details of that result. So first you start with the summary. You don't really say that you don't put the green sentences first and then put the red sentence. No, then that's not as compelling. I will perhaps not reach the end of the green set part before deciding if I want to read the rest of it or not. So you must put your most compelling sentence earlier, right? So you start the result sentence section by the most compelling sentence. Then you have the details of the results, right? Finally, and you're absolutely right, this is results because the very next part starts with our results demonstrate. So obviously you have described the results here. So the part in violet that says that our results demonstrate how members of the kinesin 5 family are likely to function in mitosis, pushing apart interpolar microtubules as well as recruiting microtubules into bundles that are subsequently polarized by relative sliding. Okay. So the part in violet, it also has some function. You have already talked about results. What more can be there? What does it do?
And discussion.
Discussion. Yeah.
Inference.
Inference, which is conclusion. Okay, what
This
else?
was the significance of the this paper.
Yes, very important. So it could have been all of those things. It could have been what you call inference or discussion, but essentially you must point people out why it's important in the bigger picture. Why somebody beyond the small group of people who are studying this kinesin 5, but more specifically kinesin 5 egg 5, beyond them, people, how is it important to the rest of the people who might, be doing research in other areas? So this is the bigger picture, is what we call them. So, so not only like it's about kinesin 5, it says that it's interesting to people who study microtubules, even interesting to people who are interested studying cell division and so on. So these are more bigger and broader areas. So now if we look at the entire abstract, we started with the general view. We went to something more specific introduction, define the problem in a line. It's very important that you are able to define the problem in one sentence. Okay. Then you summarize the result in one sentence. That is also very important. Give the details, and then again you kind of zoom out and give the bigger picture of why people should be caring about your results. Okay. All right. So I will not go through this again because we discussed this. I've put this here separately saying what they are so that when I upload the slides in Moodle, you can go back to it and you can refer to it. So general introduction, a little more detailed background, then the problem statement, lacunae, gap, whatever you call it, then the summarizing of the main result, then comes details of the main result, not the other way, and finally putting the result in general context. This is what is extremely important for us to do. All right. So now, this is what I have put here. Okay. This is also something, if you just take a look at this slide, it will remind you of the structure. The reason I'm spending so much time on one single abstract is there'll be another abstract for which the answer is not given, and now you will during the class have to tell me what this is. Okay, I will. Your job was made easy by my highlighting different sentences in different colors. So you have to read. That division is something that you must learn to do. Okay, all right. So let's go back and see what's the rule. General rule. I mean, there are no hard and fast rules, but typically, how do you write the abstract and how many sentences you spend on what, right? So the first you start with 1-2 sentences about basic introduction to the field, right? Then another 2 to 3, which is more detailed background. Okay, so the first one is any scientist engineer, so anybody in IT should be able to understand this, right? The second is more detailed background to any particular discipline. So let's say people in BSB should be able to understand your anybody points this sentence, 2 to 3 sentences. Then this is the general problem, one line of main result. Then again 2 to 3 lines. This is comparing with respect to what was expected. So you say we expected something, but we saw something, or we expected something and we confirmed that we saw the thing that we expected. Okay. So these 3 bullet points that if you can see my pointer, these are for the people who work in this sub-discipline, who work in this very specific area. Finally, you again go to 1 or 2 lines in the general context and 2 to 3 lines in the broader perspective, which is comprehensible to any scientist or engineer. In the last example that we had, instead of these 2 things were kind of combined into one sentence. Okay, so this is the structure. I hope you have it now in your head. This is how it's going to be. So now this is a second example. This is also taken from Nature, another paper. Do not worry about what this paper very specific scientific subject is, but if you look at it, they have the very similar structure. But how do we know? The first sentence they say is general background. Second one is again the specific background. This is the knowledge gap. And if you see here, they have kind of pointed out certain phrases or something that tells you this is the knowledge gap, right? So the fact that there is this, the need to determine, okay, the frequency of such transfers, etc. The need to determine is the phrase that tells you, okay, this is talking about knowledge gap. Here we show or here we report the part that's highlighted in pink here, that is about the result. The fact that here we report or something, and in my previous this thing also, here we show, right? So these are the things that start the result section. Then of course you have results with concrete values. So if you found something that, for example, you're developing a sensor, you have a very high sensitivity. I mean, you would probably want to put that in the abstract, saying like, okay, we have 1 picomolar detection, whatever, right? So something like this, right? And then this is the meaning of results, which is what I call the general context or whatever. So any of those things is this, right? So this is another example, again taken from the Nature. And I would suggest that what you can do is, from this slide, you can save this image and have it on your phone or something. Every time you are writing an abstract, look at this image. It helps you make the first draft. I have just used it 2 months ago with a student of mine to write an abstract for our paper, and we found this very useful, this entire exercise. All right. Now, in most science and engineering disciplines, the abstract and the papers also follow a certain structure. So there is introduction, then there is methods, and then there is results and discussion. Some journals, so Nature being one of them, they have a slightly different way of writing the paper. So initially there is an introduction, which is a short introduction. Then they straight away go to results and discussion, and methods come at the end of the paper. Okay. But either way, this introduction, methods followed by results and discussion is the more common way of writing papers in science. So these kind of papers are called IMRAD papers. Okay, this is one kind of acronym. So in I coming for introduction, M for methods, RAD for results and discussion. So when you are writing an abstract for an IMRAD paper, and most of your papers are going to be IMRAD, right? Even your thesis, if you think of it, let's take a typical MTech or MSc thesis. You will have 1 or 2 chapters on introduction or literature survey, then something on your materials and methods, and then there'll be some results and discussion, right? Finally, there'll be one that I'm kind of putting it together with discussion, which is conclusion and future, right? So how many sentences do you expend on writing each of those or summarizing each of those? So there is, by the way, if you see on every slide, you can see some link or the other. So I have taken a lot of help from the writing centers of different universities. Many universities have a writing division where students are given resources on how to write. They also run courses on similar to communication skills where you learn these kind of different skills. The focus is primarily on writing, but here of course we also cover things like speaking and so on, right? Okay, so if you're writing an abstract for an IMRAD paper, you can see that 25% of the abstract length you can give for the introduction. You can then further subdivide into general and specific introduction. Another 25% on what you did. Okay. Interestingly, the 2 examples that I have shown you are both from Nature, and for Nature, the journals, all Nature journals, the methods part come almost at the end. So it doesn't ever cover the methods in the abstract, okay? But many other journals do, because for many other journals, engineering journals, this will be how you write it. Okay, then 35% of the space of is going to be on results. See, results is getting the biggest chunk of what your abstract. This is something that you must realize. Okay, 15% of the space is finally on the implication. So you can call it discussion, you can call it future work, you can call it conclusion, whatever. But what the results mean is very important, and that is something you must tell the reader and not expect them to figure it out on their own. Okay. So this is the roughly the structure that you must follow. By the way, some of you are going to submit a term paper for my course at the end of the week, and the term paper needs an abstract. Try to follow this structure when you submit. There are the marks for abstract will be given based on these kind of things. Okay. So yeah, so understood. So the uh, introduction and methods get about 50%. The remaining 50% results and discussion. But individually, the biggest chunk of your abstract is coming from results. All right. We are now going to look at another example, and this example is something from my field, and this is not something that is already marked by that way. Okay, so this is something we are going to do together in class. By the way, you also see the same person Howard work because it's all about equalize, right? So this is a very interesting paper that talks about that equalize swims on the right hand side. So the title of the paper itself is the result that they found, which means if equalize swimming in a microchannel, right, or in some sort of along a line, so, and the line like the channel has a certain width, the equali could potentially swim anywhere there, right? But looks like from their results, they tend to swim only on the right hand side, not along the left hand side, not along the middle of the channel, but right hand side. And there's very interesting physics involved to explain why this is so. Okay. All right. So let's look at the abstract. So this is the abstract. I have not color coded it, and I would like you to take out your pens, pencils, notebooks, etc., and mark which sentence is what. So this is something we are doing in real time, and I want people to answer. Uh, can you still see the thing on my screen?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, it's not too small, right? Thank you. The reason I came out of the slideshow mode is I want to see the list of participants, and I want to ask people questions. Okay. So ideal would be to have volunteers. The first thing you do is you let me do something. Let me just copy this in your Teams, so you have it with you in the Teams chat. I'm copying and okay. It's a bit weird, but it's there. Copy paste it. So if you like, you can look at it over there in your you know and you can see how to look at it. We can follow the very similar structure that we have seen, because this is from another nature paper, and all of these nature abstracts follow one very similar kind of structure. So can someone now please tell me, so if you remember, we are going to look for general introduction, specific introduction, knowledge gap, one word, one sentence or something about results, detailed results, and something about context, broader context. So these are the sections we are looking for. Can somebody tell me which sentence or sentences constitute the general introduction in case of this paper?
Good morning, ma'am.
Good morning.
Yeah, ma'am, the first sentence as well as the second sentence continues the cell's solution that gives us the general introduction, ma'am. What is happening?
Okay, okay, all right. Are there any other thoughts?
First and second sentence.
You agree that both the sentences are general introduction?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, all right. Then we will come to this. Let's assume the first two sentences are general introduction. We will check in a bit. Then what? What about a specific introduction or something? And you have to tell me why, by the way, you think is those two sentences were general introductions and whatever you are calling specific introduction, why that is specific. Can I have some people telling me? So first two sentences are gone, right? So let me just highlight. We have covered so far here. What about specific?
Ma'am, the sentence from individual is specialized to swarming. That's the specific introduction.
Until swarming. Okay, so are you saying that this to this? Is that, I'm sorry, is this correct? Is this what you are saying? Is this what you are saying that that let me just go back to this. So individual E. coli cells swimming clockwise circular trajectories near planar glass surfaces on a semi-solid agar substrate. Cells differentiate into an elongated, hyperflagellated phenotype and migrate cooperatively over a surface for a phenomenon called swarming. Is the entire thing you're calling that is specific, is it?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you. All right. So we have identified two sentences as general introduction, two sentences as specific introduction, right? Now, what about the rest? What is the next sentence or sentences about?
Ma'am, the next sentence I think is the methodology because they mentioned that we have developed the technique.
Yes, yes. I was wondering if you would say if it is a knowledge gap or something. I mean, uh, there wasn't really anything. I mean, people weren't really trying to find out do E. coli swim on right hand side or left hand side. I don't think people were thinking. They were doing some experiment for something else and they suddenly noticed this. So that kind of a lacuna sentence is not there in this abstract. Instead, they follow the IMRAD structure. So there is a methods thing. Very good for pointing out. This is the method that we have developed a technique for observing isolated E. coli sperma cells moving on an agar substrate and confined in shallow oxidized PDMS microchannels, right? All right, very good. What about the next sentences?
It is main result.
This is the main result, right? So the main result is that here we show that cells in these microchannels preferentially drive on the right? You know, certain countries you drive on the right, and for example, and certain countries you drive on the left. So similarly, swimming preferentially along the right wall of the microchannel, viewed from behind the moving cell with the agar on the bottom. Okay, so that sentence. Is it? Are you talking only about this sentence or even the next one? The main result, is it only this sentence or is this also the next sentence? I do you think it's this just this one sentence? Then what about the next sentence? We propose that and so on. Yeah, any volunteers?
Ma'am,
Yeah, come on, say.
okay. So the portion from we propose that when cells could be the discussion section because the result finishes right in the with the word bottom.
So this is something that is coming after the
They're
result,
proposing
right? Yeah, the
they're
previous
just
sentence very clearly says what they saw. They do not interpret anything, right? So the next sentence, you're right that it is more of a detailed discussion of the result or this thing, in the sense that, say, okay, we saw this. From that, we propose that when the cells are confined between two interfaces, one an agar gel and the second PDMS. PDMS is another soft material, that they swim closer to the agar surface than to the PDMS surface and for much longer periods of time, leading to preferential movement on the right. They are explaining why they see that E. coli swim on the right? Because it's confined between two surfaces, one of which is softer than the other. The agar is softer compared to PDMS, and they swim closer to the more soft surface than to the other, right? Which leads to this preferential movement, right? So this is what they are discussing. Okay. Finally, the last sentence is, thus the choice of materials guides the motion of cells in microchannels. What about that sentence?
This is the conclusion sentence.
This is the conclusion sentence. This is also putting things in bigger context. So there's a whole field called microfluidics, where people study, what happens inside microchannels. So not just for making sensors or diagnostic devices and all, but also for doing some basic physics or basic biology, right? So in those areas, those people might not worry about particularly E. coli or this material agar or PDMS, but they do worry about how cells behave inside microchannels, for example. So for the broader community, they are saying that, look, you must choose the material of the channel carefully, so that the motion of the channel will depend on that. More specifically, how much resistance they are offering to the motion of these particular entities, right? So this is the broader context. Good. Let us go now check our answers if we did it the same way. Okay. So does this, I think you got it absolutely right, all of you. Okay. This was not given to you. The color coding that we have done is exactly in the same way. So unlike the previous abstract, there are two sentences as general introduction. Then there is more specific introduction about E. coli. General introduction is about generally perniciously flagellated bacteria. There might be others than E. coli also, right? This is more about E. coli. This is more about a specific surface. Then this green sentence is methods. The brown sentence is summarizing the result. The red sentence is what the discussion of the result. They explain why they have that result. And finally, the black sentence is what it means for the broader community. Okay. So I'm not going to fill this up because, or let me just do it anyway. I kept this blank because I was hoping to fill this up in class with you guys. So let me just write this general intro. So if when you do your exercise on Moodle, if you have it, it will be useful to you. Specific intro. This is methods. This is result summary. This is discussion. This I put as broader context. Okay, so you must always have these things for people to uh, make sense of your paper. You can't leave it without these sections. Okay, you must have the broader context thing. Most of you, when you write, I realize that you leave it at discussion. No, you need to zoom out even more and tell why should anybody else other than these very specific people care. Okay, now we are changing gears a bit. I have about, how much time I have? Oh, I have about 10 minutes. I might extend it slightly a little bit. Do any of you have a class immediately after this? A
Yes,
live
ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
interaction?
Yes.
Okay, okay. Those of you who
Yes,
have,
ma'am.
you can leave. I will have the recorded version there, so you will not miss anything. Okay, I might take a little longer than 10 minutes. Let's see. So we are going to identify good and bad abstract. So I'm going to give you two examples, and you're going to tell me what is what. So in this case, there is one on the left and one on the right. Both of these are abstracts. Okay, you have to tell me which abstract is better and why. How many people think that the left abstract is the better abstract? Okay, do people think the right one is a better abstract?
Yes, ma'am.
The right one, right? Can you tell me why
Yes,
you
ma'am.
think the right one, you think that is a better abstract and not the left one?
Ma'am, in the left one, it was like I will prove, like it's like more biased statement, which shouldn't be there.
Interesting. Yes, we saw it the very first one, right? You cannot defend, you cannot, that's not the job of the abstract. More so, and it kind of reads more like a proposal. When you write a grant proposal, you say, okay, if you give me the money, I will do this research and I will prove this is whatever, right? This is not describing it. So that is why the left one is a bad abstract, the right one is a good abstract. Okay. Okay, everybody clear, right? What is what? I'm not writing here. Next one. Which one is the problematic sentence here and why? The first one is this report examines the causes of oversleeping. That think of it like a one sentence abstract. And the second one is individuals oversleep because they go to bed too late, forget to set their alarms and keep their rooms dark. Which one is a better abstract and why? Any volunteers?
Ma'am, I think the first one is correct because the second one is too wordy because we need to maintain the word limit also. I think it's better to compress and tell in few words.
But we don't know the word limit here. Okay. Any other views? Any other views?
Ma'am,
Yeah.
I guess the first one is better because it tells what the following article or the report is telling us about, and the second statement is a general statement describing how things work and how it oversleeping affects us.
Okay. Any other views, thoughts?
Ma'am,
Yeah.
good morning, ma'am.
Good
I
morning.
think the first sentence would be much suitable because the first sentence is given with respect to the article which we are writing. So it's more towards the explanation or a brief about the report, whereas the second statement is much more factual. So it's kind of opinion
Okay.
from my side.
Now let's see the answer. The first one is the bad one because it's saying what the paper will ask or explore. If you go back to the previous examinations, they said the paper will look at something. I will prove something, right? On the other hand, in this case, the first sentence is problematic because it says what it will do. You are supposed to describe what you found. So the second sentence concisely describes exactly what you found. They were going to study why people oversleep, and their study says they oversleep because of these reasons. So this is why it's better. So rather than this report examines something, do not start your abstract about that. Okay. So always say that we find that something. Maybe they did not start with the words we found that or something, or this report found that something. That's what threw you off. Okay. So the first sentence is actually problematic. Second one, second example. Which one is the problematic sentence? Remember the job of the abstract. Its job is to describe, not evaluate, not defend. And it should have the most important keywords to allow people to search for your paper. Any thoughts about this one? Yeah.
Second one is I think second sentence is better.
Second one is better. Okay, let's look at this.
Yeah, second one is
Let's look at the answer,
better.
right? Second one is better, and why? It's very important for us to understand why, because The second one tells you exactly which variables are important. If you read the first one, if that is the only summary, you are left wondering, okay, so which variables are important? They didn't tell me. The second one actually tells me that the seeds and popcorn are more important things, right? So that is the problem. This was the problem with the first abstract, whereas the second one doesn't have this. Okay. All right, so I'm going to end the class here. Thank God I'm on time. So I have used lots of examples from the first, the George Mason University's thing, but University of North Carolina, Wisconsin, Purdue are just some of the examples of universities that have writing centers, and they have a lot of resources online for anybody in the world to see. And there might be others also, but I have just kept this here so that in future you can actually go back and look at those. Okay, so all right, so this is the I am going to stop sharing my screen. So this was what we wanted to learn about writing abstracts. I have given you certain, hopefully some skills that you can now use when you are um, going and doing the assignment. Once the Moodle assignment opens, I will uh, it shouldn't take you that long, and I might actually give you a third small assignment is pick up any paper in your area. It doesn't matter. Look at its abstract and upload the abstract along with this kind of a thing. If you do this, you'll be so well prepared for your own work that I think just take this advantage. We have this whole week, so and I have given you like full 4 3 4 days time. You can do this. Okay, all right, so I'm going to stop here, and there will not be any more live lectures, but you are going to do the work in the next two periods that are assigned to you. All right, so now I'm going to stop recording, and I will make this available on the